287 Where is she going at this hour? Turning her gaze in the direction Tiuran was headed, Talia frowned when she spotted another figure among the forest paths behind the rear garden. Despite the considerable distance, she could tell that the person was not a soldier. Could she be following that person? She turned her attention back to Tiuran. Hidden behind the dense bushes, she was moving while maintaining a certain distance. At a glance, it looked as though she was following someone. A faint sense of unease seeped into Talia's heart. Watching as the two disappeared among the forest paths, Talia soon took a coat from the wardrobe. Perhaps she was being overly sensitive, but she could not shake the worry that Tiuran might have gotten herself involved in something dangerous. She hurriedly threw the loose coat over her nightclothes and approached the door. Khan, who had been anxiously hovering around her, quickly blocked her path. Gently pushing Khan's head aside, Talia said firmly, "You wait here." If she took Khan with her, they would be noticed by people immediately. Avoiding the wolf, she hurried toward the door and quickly pulled the handle. Then, before Khan could follow her out, she swiftly shut and locked the door behind her and hurried down the corridor. She had to leave the castle before the maids realized she was gone. Pulling the hood of her coat deeply over her head, Talia descended the narrow staircase leading to the rear entrance, relying on the faint light of dawn. Fortunately, the castle was quiet as the grave. She could not tell the exact time, but it seemed there was still quite a while before the sky became completely bright. Looking around repeatedly, she cautiously stepped into the rear garden. Tiuran was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps she had already left the forest path. Restlessly darting her eyes around, Talia soon began walking along the dark forest path. Before long, the rear gate of the castle appeared through the bluish darkness. Hiding behind a tree, she carefully observed the gate. She could faintly see a single sentry leaning against the wall, fast asleep. After a moment of hesitation, Talia cautiously approached him. If Tiuran had left the castle, the sentry would have recorded her name. If he had not, that meant she was still somewhere inside the castle. She lightly touched the shoulder of the soldier, who was snoring loudly without even realizing she was approaching. Then she suddenly caught a familiar scent and froze. The smell of sleeping herb. After carefully examining the soldier, who was nearly unconscious, Talia crouched down and quickly surveyed the surroundings. Before long, she spotted a wine bottle lying near his feet. Picking it up and bringing the opening close to her nose, Talia frowned deeply. Mixed into the strong aroma of wine was the bitter scent characteristic of sleeping herb. Talia dropped the bottle almost as if throwing it aside, then immediately went to the rear gate and examined the bolt. It was unlocked. Feeling a chill run down her spine, she swallowed nervously. If Tiuran had drugged the soldier and secretly left the castle, she would inevitably be punished. Talia anxiously bit her lip before shaking her head. It's too soon to conclude that Tiuran had been following someone. It was entirely possible that the person she had been pursuing was the one who had put the sentry to sleep. She hurriedly pushed the gate open. It would have been wiser to call the guards and have them conduct a search, but she could not bring herself to summon them in case Tiuran was harmed somehow. For now, she wanted to find out what kind of trouble Tiuran had gotten herself into. Talia began walking along the narrow slope leading around the back of the castle. However, there was no sign of anyone anywhere along the gently sloping dirt path. Restlessly scanning her surroundings, Talia soon turned west. If someone wanted to avoid being seen, they would have headed into the forest. Searching the enormous forest covering western Khmer would be impossible, but checking the nearest edge of the forest to Laedgo Castle would not take very long. She descended the hilly path, where the vegetation was beginning to grow thick, limping slightly as she went. Before long, she began to lose her breath and the strength in her legs. Talia placed a hand against a tree and paused to catch her ragged breathing. It seemed her condition was beginning to worsen again. Should I go back? Just as she was looking back at the path she had come along and wondering what to do, a sharp shout rang out. Startled, Talia turned her head and spotted a familiar back at the edge of the forest, which was beginning to be tinged with bluish light. She quickly hid behind a tree. Keeping herself low, she cautiously peeked out and saw Tiuran confronting someone. Talia shifted her gaze to the person standing opposite her. Their face was obscured by a tree trunk, but judging by their build, the person appeared to be a woman. Narrowing her eyes as she watched them, Talia carefully approached until she was close enough to overhear their conversation. At that moment, Tiuran's sharp voice reached her ears once again. "Don't even think about denying it. I know you've been deliberately damaging Her Highness's health all this time. Do not slander me without evidence." The voice that followed made Talia's body stiffen. She craned her neck forward, and even in the darkness, she could clearly see Tiuran's face, which had gone deathly pale. The woman took a step backward and retorted sharply, "I am the healer assigned to Her Highness by Her Majesty the Empress. What reason would I have to harm Her Highness? We'll find out once we investigate." Tiuran shot back fiercely. "I've only been watching because I had no evidence, but things are different now. You've been recklessly using medicine lately and failed to erase the traces completely. I found a large quantity of belladonna leaves and rue roots beneath your bedroom. There were also several other herbs that could cause infertility if taken over a long period. Are you saying you searched my room without permission? Is that what matters right now? You deliberately harmed Her Highness the Grand Duchess. What was your purpose? Were you trying to make sure she could never have children?" Tiuran stepped right up to Marisin, raising her voice. "You caused Her Highness's miscarriage too, didn't you?" The color drained from Marisin's face until she looked like a corpse. Just by seeing her expression, Talia could tell that Tiuran's suspicions were true. Unable to contain the rage flooding through her entire body, Talia breathed heavily and staggered toward them. "Is that true?" Both women turned toward her at the same time. How could Your Highness be here?" Marisin stared blankly at her in terror. Talia took another step toward her and demanded, "Was it you who caused me to miscarry?" Marisin backed away, her thin lips trembling. Seeing guilt spread across Marisin's face, Talia felt a blinding red rage consume her vision. Her shoulders trembled violently. "Why? Why did you do such a thing? Did my mother order you to?" Marisin looked around in confusion before slowly shaking her head. Talia stared at her with an icy gaze and continued questioning her. "Then were you acting on the Crown Prince's orders?" After hesitating for a long while, Marisin finally nodded. "Yes.